Hello again and welcome to another edition of Newsmaker of the Week. I'm Leon Worden and I am pleased to welcome this week's Newsmakers from Golden West K-9, Bill Nelson and Gary Jeffrey. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
Great to be here.
us.
Golden West K-9, now that is, what is that, the largest private security firm in Santa Clarita now?
Yes, it is. It's privately owned.
Privately owned, is there, well, okay, I guess the sheriffs aren't privately owned.
Right.
Golden West K-9, how long has that been around?
It's been around since 1969, coming up on our 40th anniversary this year.
That long? But not in this valley.
No, we've been here about 12, 14 years.
Okay. And what do you do there, Bill?
I do sales and marketing up here in Santa Clarita. When I first came up here, I was a patrol officer and supervising our patrol and sentry officers. And then the opportunity came in to go into sales and marketing, and that gives me a chance to work normal hours. And so I grabbed it.
And I see you're wearing a gun. I mean, do even sales managers carry guns these days?
Well, I'm also a lieutenant, and I'm also a uniformed officer. And
Lieutenant in what? What does that mean?
In our company, we have ranking. We have some sergeants, we have corporals, and we have regular officers. But a lieutenant grade is usually in leadership. And once in a while, I'll do a special assignment, but not very much anymore.
And I understand you're vice president of the company.
Yes, I am.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been in security for about 20 years now. It's one of the fastest growing industries in the country, and something that I decided I wanted to become a part of 20 years ago.
And did you have a military background or something? I mean, are all these security officers ex-military? Or?
No, many of them are. Many of them are former military police and so forth, especially in our supervision ranks. Many of them have it. Me personally, I never became involved in the military.
What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I spent 8 years in the Navy, and I was partly in shore patrol. And so this is a second career for me, and I took to it like a duck to water, and I enjoy it, and I'm good at it. So,
you know, I know a lot of people probably have a lot of preconceived notions about security officers, and you hear rent-a-cop and that kind of thing, and it's like, oh, those are people who couldn't make the grade to be LAPD or whatever, and how true is that?
well, people have those projections. Sometimes they have certain expectations. Sometimes they think we're private cops. Private security should not be a private cop.
What do you mean when you say that?
Law enforcement is designed and structured for law enforcement. They go out and catch criminals. Private security is a deterrent to criminal activity. And so where we are present, hopefully the bad guys will go someplace else.
The idea being it's a set of eyeballs, with or without guns.
And there's a lot more of us than there are policemen. And in the last year or so, the cooperation between law enforcement, private security has increased tremendously because we do have so many eyes out there. And the common perception of the rent-a-cop and so forth is something that we as an industry have had to fight. We hold ourselves to a higher standard. When we go through our recruiting process, we weed out what we call wannabes or cowboys, that people that think they are cops, because we are not police officers. We are private security, and although we enjoy some freedoms that even the police don't, we understand what our role is to assist in any way we can.
And what is that role? I mean, what are the different kinds of services that you provide?
We offer three primary services, one being patrol, where we randomly patrol a property, and that's both residential and commercial. We have standing officers, which are on site for a given number of hours, and we respond to alarms when the need arises. It can be both, as I said, commercial, residential. Again, we try to be a deterrent. Our visibility is something that we send two messages. We send a deterrent message to the criminal element. We also send a message of reassurance to the good people in the community so they feel safer. And we invest a lot of our resources in training of our officers so they're equipped to handle a variety of different situations. During the riots, we were very instrumental in helping property owners. During the earthquake, we were very instrumental in helping homeowners. It's basically an all-encompassing role. People look to us to solve all their problems, and unfortunately we can't do that, and many times we have to refer them to the police.
You say that you weed out, the wannabes and that kind of thing. What kind of, if somebody wants to become a security officer, what are the requirements, and what kind of training do you provide?
Well, it's mandated by the state of California through the BSIS, which is the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services. They have to be licensed. They have to go through a orientation process and testing. They have an FBI background check conducted on them. They have to go through a drug screen with our company. We do background checks. We look at their previous employment. As I said, a lot of our resources are invested in supervision. A lot of times we're there performing our duties when nobody's around to watch us. A lot of our work is done at night. Mm-hmm. We have supervisors on every shift that are doing random inspections of our on-site guards and our patrol officers to ensure that they're professional in appearance, they're alert, they're awake. And that may sound funny, but there are a lot of companies out there that pay officers to sleep while you're paying them to protect your
you
property.
hear stories. One of those stories that you hear every once in a while. It's in the situation where somebody's supposed to be guarding a building all night, and they're sitting out in their car and sleeping or whatever. There are situations where you will guard a building all night, but that's not normally the case, or what?
Oh, absolutely. No, we do special projects, fire watches. We also have ongoing situations where we provide security for a given amount of time. One thing about security, we're never closed. We're open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, so we're always available. One of the unique things about our company is we have a dispatch center that's manned with a live person 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and we don't monitor alarms. That's strictly for our clients' use and for our officers' safety. So that officer standing in the dark guarding that building, if he sees something out of the ordinary, he can get on the radio and he can have 1 to 5 patrol vehicles there, supervision and all the support that he needs to hopefully thwart that crime.
1 to 5 of your
patrol vehicles, right.
And then he could also, call the sheriffs if he needed to.
Absolutely. Our working relationship with law enforcement is excellent because, again, getting back to the cowboys and wannabes, we realize that we're not peace officers. We don't abuse their time and resources. If we call them, they know that it's a verified issue and they will respond.
Well, if you're guarding a building, or if you're guarding, like you said, fire situation. Somebody's had a fire and someone hires you to, stand there and watch over it, make sure people don't steal something or whatever.
Yeah.
If then the officer on duty does see some kind of suspicious activity going on, will the private security officer then contact the suspect?
No. Well, it depends on the situation, but they will call dispatch and pass the word. So
they don't make contact with the person who shouldn't
not
be there.
necessarily. If somebody comes on the property and they're just a looky-loo, they'll ask them to leave if that's the requirement of the property. But
if they see somebody trying to break in, let's say.
Well, then we'll call law enforcement. That's a crime that's being committed. We're a witness to that crime, and we'll get law enforcement there immediately.
And if I can add on, one of the keys is our visibility. We will make our presence known to that individual so that they know that they're not doing this
Honk your horn or flash your lights or something?
Right. That somebody's watching them, and at least we'll be able to report the vehicle, a description, and know that it's being communicated to law enforcement so they know they don't have that much time. Generally, with all the potential targets out there, that visibility is the greatest deterrent that we can provide. By seeing us, they'll just go somewhere else where somebody's not watching them, and then they can do their business.
What about the situation where, not everybody has the budget to hire you to sit there all night and watch their building. But let's say they're the type of company that wants to hire you to drive by and make sure everything looks okay and the doors are locked and that kind of thing. I mean, do you have is there like a particular number of times that you promise to pass by during the night or something like that, or how does that work?
That's arranged on a per site basis and a client basis and a budget basis, and depend upon the routine that they want. A homeowners association at a recreation facility might have a different requirement than a commercial building. So we'll drive by as many times as they want. Typically it's a maximum of 2 per shift, so that gives them 6 patrols in a 24-hour period on weekends and that type of thing, and holidays when everybody else is enjoying their life. We're out there busy doing the protection. Interestingly enough, in California, the training requirements are stricter in California than any other state in the union. So potentially our officers are better trained than any other private security officers in the United States.
On that note, I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about what some of those other companies are and that kind of thing.
The 15th annual An Evening Under the Stars Gala Dinner and Auction will be held on September 6th at Man Biomedical Park. All proceeds will support the Michael Hoffman Foundation's efforts to bring hope, help, and healing to pediatric victims of cancer and their families. The evening will feature the musical sounds of Al McKay, the original member of Earth, Wind & Fire, presenting the music of Earth, Wind & Fire. For additional information or to purchase tickets, call the Michael Hoffman Foundation at 661-250-4100.
Hi, I'm Senator George Runner. You're watching SCVTV, local television for Santa Clarita.
The City of Santa Clarita's Street Art Festival returns to Old Town Newhall Saturday, September 27th and Sunday, September 28th. Free and open to the public, the Street Art Festival features live music, dance entertainment, and great food and fun for the whole family to enjoy. All weekend long, watch street artists create a work of art from a beginning outline to the final masterpieces. Don't miss the City of Santa Clarita's Street Art Festival in Old Town Newhall, sponsored by Lockheed Federal Credit Union.
Welcome back. We're here with Gary Jeffrey and Bill Nelson from Golden West K-9. And I'm coming back to that gun on your belt. I mean, it's not everybody who comes on the Newsmaker show with a gun.
That's true.
And I'm assuming it's loaded.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But there have been actually, in all honesty, there have been a number of people who've come on the show with a gun, but they've always had it concealed. Well, without naming names, you're overt about it. So are there situations where you've had to use your gun in the line of duty?
No.
In 39 years, we're one of the few companies that can say we've never had a shooting. You hear stories about other companies where they respond to an alarm and shoot the family dog. The things that you see on TV when we're checking an interior of a property with the gun out and all that, that doesn't happen in real life with our company. That gun does not come out of its holster unless there are 3 key elements involved, and that is intent, opportunity, and ability to threaten your life. And that's only after you've done everything you can to avoid that confrontation. We're not going to shoot somebody in the back running down the street with the TV. We're concerned about our liability. We're concerned about our client's liability. And the gun is more of, again, a perception and a deterrent than an actual use. I'd like to point out, we take the use of a gun very, very seriously. It's not the Barney Fife with 1 bullet in the pocket. Our officers have to qualify on the range every 90 days. If they don't establish a certain degree of proficiency that we require, which is a high standard, they don't carry guns until they can reobtain that. So we take firearms very, very seriously, and we haven't had any problems so far.
I mentioned before the break something about other companies, and there have been other private security companies in the Santa Clarita Valley that have been around quite a bit longer than Golden West has been in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Correct.
How is it that Golden West I mean, is it all because of your phone calling? How is it that Golden West has become the biggest here in our valley?
We have an excellent reputation, and I work hard at getting the word out. But we've had some good representation. We've enjoyed a relationship with the city of Santa Clarita. We do all of their private security. We do all of Lennar's, all of New Holland Farm, almost all the car dealerships. So we have a very visible presence up here. We probably have more patrol cars up here than any other private security company. So you'll see our cars all over the place. One of the services that we do and that we're excited about is alarm response, because we can respond in a very prompt way, and every call that comes to us is a priority call. And so the patrol officers will interrupt whatever they're doing and respond to that patrol.
Yeah, about alarms. I mean, having been involved in, for instance, like the Santa Clarita Valley Historical Society, where all the buildings are alarmed. So, don't try anything funny. But I know that you get dinged by the city of Santa Clarita if that alarm goes off, like a false alarm for the third time in a calendar year.
Right.
So, alarm goes off. What happens? Who gets called?
The monitoring company is the one that gets that alarm notification. They will call whoever the owner of that property wants them to call first. Now, if they haven't designated somebody, or if they say, well, we want law enforcement to respond, then law enforcement will respond. They do a better job up here than they do in the San Fernando Valley. You have a different agency up here. But it's not a priority call with them. They're busy about law enforcement, and they know that most alarm calls, 98% of them are going to be false alarms. And so they're treated somewhat as a second-class citizen. However, the ordinance was enacted because it's very costly to have law enforcement responding to these alarm calls, especially when they're false alarms. And there were some people that had a disproportionate number of false alarm calls. It's frustrating to law enforcement to have to answer those calls, and so the city and even law enforcement recommends, hey, have private security do it, and then we'll respond. If it's an actual, we'll get them involved.
So what does that cost? let's say somebody like the Historical Society wanted to hire Golden West to deal with the silent alarm.
Special deal, it's unbelievably the best service that we offer at the cheapest price. It's $17.75 a month, and that's month to month. That's not a locked-in contract. We bill you quarterly in advance, and you can cancel with 30 days notice.
So that's roughly equivalent in a year, I think, to about one fine.
Yeah.
From the city,
Now,
which is about 100 and how much is that now? That
$189.
So every time after the third time in a calendar year, the third and every other subsequent time in a calendar year, it's going to cost you $189.
Yeah. Plus, you're taking a law enforcement officer out of the field of what he should be doing and having him answer an alarm response call.
So that alarm then, so the alarm goes off, and let's say you've designated, Golden West to be called. So they call, the monitoring company then, instead of calling the primary person from the organization, they call Golden West.
They call us.
And then Golden West goes over and takes a look.
We go out and check out the property. We'll do a perimeter check. We do an evaluation of the property, and if it's basically a false alarm, we'll leave a drop card at the door of the business or home and let them know that we were there, 2 a.m. and we're not going to wake them up tell them a false alarm. And
we also communicate all of this back to the monitoring company.
Yep.
It's also inputted into our computers, what time we got the call, what time we arrived on location, what the disposition was while we were at the location, because we enter some properties, we just check the perimeter on others. That's all in the client's realm. They can decide what we do when we get there and what time we cleared the location. This is all communicated back to the monitoring company so that when the client comes in the next day and sees that drop tag that says you've had some activity here last night, they can call over and find out everything that they needed to know about that activation, and it's very helpful.
There's no other, if you have to come out then, there's no additional charge to the company that's hired you. That's all part of it. It's all included in the $17
we charge $25 for an officer response.
Okay.
So
So then, if you go there and you see that there's some suspicious activity. What do you do?
Well, let's define the suspicious activity. If it's just suspicious activity, somebody hanging around a place, we'll ask them to leave. If it's an actual break-in, we'll get law enforcement also involved.
If there's somebody around the property, rather than just asking them to leave, we would also identify them, ask for a form of identification, so that if we find out something after the fact, at least we've got a starting point. If there has been an actual, we're going to secure the location to the best of our ability. We'll immediately contact law enforcement. It's now a verified alarm, and the response is incredible to that. They're going to get there in quite a short time. We will stand by that property until the proceedings have cleared. If it requires a board-up company to come out, we're going to stand by the property until the property is secured or a responsible party responds to the location. So we're going to protect your property until it's made safe again.
You've mentioned to me, Bill, that there are things that people don't know or think they know or don't really know about private security companies. And what are some of the other things?
Well, some people want private security officers to like be a private Gestapo, and that's not a good thing to do. Some people think that private security is there to almost do illegal acts. In other words, we have a good understanding of the law. We know what we should do. Some people want us to do.
And what? What do people want?
Well, they may want us to tow a car, and it's not a legal tow. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep the people involved. Any tow that we do is going to be a legal tow. So it's a matter of helping a person protect their property and protect their assets, including their bank accounts, and not do things that are not supportively correct.
What would have been some of the weirdest things that people wanted you to do?
We've been asked to just shoot people on sight, which obviously we can't do that. Sometimes you feel like you would, but you can't do that. The homeless transient situation is something that is big in the San Fernando, and I'm sure the Santa Clarita Valley as well. They'll ask us to come out and just to drag them off, take their belongings, and we can't do all of that. There needs to be some police involvement in that as well. Going and pounding on neighbors' doors to tell them to turn their music down, domestic disputes. Like Bill says, they basically look to us to do everything, and in some way that's a very big compliment that they look to us for their security needs. But we can only do what we can legally do. So we try not to escalate the situation, and we try to keep if it's a homeowners association, keep their liability issues at bay. We do everything by the book. We're licensed. We're fully insured. We name our clients as additional insured on our insurance so that they're protected as well as us. And we try not to have to go to the extent that we're going to have to utilize that.
What have been some of the more interesting things that you have been involved with and able to handle here? Are there particular, have there been, I don't know, particular police incidents or something where you've had a hand? Or,
How about the lady that saved the baby?
Yeah, we had a situation where over here on Creekside at one of the car dealerships, this happens to be one of the empty buildings that we're looking after to make sure the copper doesn't leave the property. A lot of that going on. But the officer was there, and all of a sudden a person drives up in an SUV, jumps out of their car. His wife is in the car. She's screaming. He jumps out of the car, grabs the baby, and starts shaking the baby quite vigorously. And the officer sees this and goes over there, and you tell the rest of it.
Well, not knowing if the baby was being abused or what, she went over and had the presence of mind and very calmly took the baby, performed CPR. At the same time, she told the parents to call 911. She brought the baby was unconscious at the time and not breathing. She brought him back to consciousness. They had contacted the ambulance and the police, they responded. To make a long story short, she probably saved the baby's life.
You know, you mentioned about Creekside and things getting stolen off the lots, and I mean, you know, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I know that, you know, I've heard that some of these criminals know exactly where the cameras are and all that kind of thing. And I know that, you know, vehicles do get stolen from Creekside, you know, probably more regularly than people would.
More parts
imagine.
than vehicles.
More parts?
More parts than vehicles. A few vehicles, yes. We've
I've
done.
heard of things getting stripped down. You know,
Well, we've done several things out there, and we have a dedicated patrol now.
So there's somebody on Creekside all the time?
We have somebody patrolling those car dealerships every night, 8-hour shift. We have.
Is that new?
Relatively new.
Yeah, relatively new. We have at certain sites we have actually a standing guard on site, and he's a roving officer, and so we monitor some of the activities. We also have patrol officers that are out there that respond to any alarms, and we've encouraged each car dealership to put in alarm systems, and video is great. One of the things we're doing with video, and which Gary didn't touch on yet, is a video sentry. And that's where if they have video cameras and that's hooked up to a DVD-R recorder, and that recorder is hooked up to a DSL telephone line, we can actually go online from our dispatch office and do a random check, or we can check when an alarm goes off. There's any number of ways in which we can monitor, but we can do a live view, actual time of what's going on a person's property. We do it at homeowner associations, at the recreation pools. We do some of the dealerships, and that is so cool because we can see what's going on, and that person that's seeing what's going on is the one that's talking to our patrol officers.
I hate to, you know, have to wrap it up, but we do. We're already out of time. But what is if you can think of one thing that people could do to, you know, to change something where they're being stupid, you know, what would you like to see them do in the way of protecting themselves or whatever?
Become more aware of their surroundings, be more aware of their neighbors, get to know their neighbors. There's no better security than a nosy neighbor. Don't be a target. Be aware of what's going on around you and project confidence. Be aware that where the potential problems are. You don't walk into a dark alley with your head down and wonder why you got robbed.
Gary Jeffrey, Phil Nelson, thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us. If you missed any portion of this program, you can see it again and again on SCVTV.com. Check back here, Channel 20, Sunday, 8:30 a.m., Thursday, 9 p.m. for another Newsmaker of the Week.
Strangers in the night.
Someone asked old Blue Eyes how you got to be a great singer. He answered, you sing great songs. And we have 56 great songs on stage at the Canyon Theater Guild in Old Town Newhall. In My Way, a musical tribute to Frank Sinatra. August 1st through September 6th. Call for tickets now, 799-2702. Do it my way.
Sir, are you okay?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this, so why ignore the signs of a stroke? Call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
Did you know the first gold in California was discovered right here in the Santa Clarita Valley, long before Sutter's Mill? Did you know our valley was the birthplace of the California oil industry? Did you know that when Los Angeles joined the rest of the country by rail, the tracks came together in Santa Clarita? You might know we're a popular location for filming, but did you know we always have been? Learn all about Santa Clarita's fascinating history at scvhistory.com or visit the Saugus Train Station Museum in Old Town Newhall, weekends 1 to 4.